You're watching TVC News. Now back to Osun State, where we have our correspondent Femi Akande joining us for an update on the elections. Femi, thanks for your time. What is going on?
Yes, thank you, Ugochi. Well, the voting is done and dusted. Now it's the waiting game where all stakeholders have converged on the INEC headquarters here in Osogbo, the state capital, waiting for the returning officer to announce who has been duly elected as governor of Osun State. Here, this is the media center where everything will take place, and right there are the designated chairs where people will be sitting, the officials from the director of the DSS to the national commissioners and even the returning officer and all INEC officers and other major stakeholders who are key players in this whole process will take their seats up there. Well, my colleague Awakan is joining me now. Well, it's as I said earlier, it's a waiting game and we are in this together. But you covered Elisha axis and where again?
Elisha, basically.
Okay, what was the level of, I would say, enthusiasm that you noticed or you observed at Elisha? You know, because people are talking about how interested the people of Osun State have become in the whole political process.
Well, Femi, sincerely, I will tell you, I got to Elisha around 7 a.m. this morning, and all the polling units that I visited, I discovered that all through the process, there was no issue of voter apathy. The people of Osun State, they came out en masse to exercise their franchise, and because they know that whatever they do at this particular time is going to determine what will happen to them in the next 4 years, whosoever is going to take over from, you know, the present governor. And they all came out en masse. The polling units that I was at, the first polling units that I, was at before they started the voting, there was something significant that the INEC or staff that they did. What was that? They tried as much as possible to speak with all the electorate at that particular point at exactly 8 a.m. They tried to address them, telling them what they should expect, telling them how they should conduct themselves, telling them how the day is going to go, how they are going to move from one particular point to the other. They did that in Yoruba and they also did it in English. So that created, brought down the kind of tension in the electorate. So they were, calm. They allowed them to ask questions. And after that, they started. Most of the polling units that I visited, they started at exactly 8 a.m. And that's it, just for one of the polling units, which is a bit, far, which they said they came a bit late.
Voting started at 8 a.m. and ended at 2 p.m. But there were some polling units where people were still on the queue. As at 2 p.m. when the voting was officially supposed to end, they allowed them, it was permitted, according to the electoral law, of course, that INEC has laid down, it was permitted for them to cast their ballot. But one interesting thing was during the counting and sorting, of course, the collation at the counting at each polling unit. People were jubilating, and some of them will go with the impression that that would be how the results would be because of what, maybe because of how the results turns out to be in one polling unit. Some people might have the impression that the overall result might be like that, and I saw people jubilating, but and then an observer was saying that sadly some of these jubilations will be short-lived, because at the end of the day, instead of them to wait for INEC to, as the umpire, to come and give the official result, people from each polling unit go to town with the result, thinking their own preferred political party has carried the day.
Well, I think that's a wrong perception, I should say, from the aspect of from the perspective of the electorate. This is the process from the polling units, the sorting and the counting. From there, they move to the ward. Then from the ward to the local government, where the local government will, collate from their own points. After which, they will bring all the collations from the 30 local governments down to the INEC office. That's why we are all here waiting for them. So it's when they get to this particular, place, that all the, collations they've made at each of the local governments, from the units, from the wards, that will now be collated finally here. And the official result, as the INEC, as the rec here, Mr. Shegun Agbaje said earlier, that they should wait for the official result from INEC. Although we understand that the social media is there, it's not being regulated. You know, you can have results from any point.
Have you seen some results on social media?
Well, you definitely see them. Some of these results coming from the polling unit, because you know during sorting, during counting, people will be there to take notes, and they think that's going to be the final result. It was the same thing that happened in Ekiti. You know, there was, after the election in Ekiti, there were some places, you know, I went to, and they were already jubilating. But eventually, at the end of the exercise, it was not in their favor. So I think we should learn to understand that results should not, or are not expected to be, you know, sent out to the public until it's been officially announced by INEC, because you know they are the official commission that is meant to, you know, actually send out the result.
Well, and TVC News is on this and will stay on this until the very end, until when everything is collated from here and the returning officer announces a duly elected governor. TVC News will be here for you, first and accurate. Well, Ola, we're still in this conversation now. You know why we're here. Journalists and other stakeholders, domestic and international observers are all here. But you know, one hurdle that journalists have to cross now is getting into this place. That is a huge problem now, getting to this place. You know, before we got in, we even had to plead with the security men outside and promising them that after this live transmission, we'll step out of the hall. And there are so many other credible media organizations out there who are facing this kind of challenge, who might be denied entry into this place to observe how the whole final collation will take place. Isn't this a worry?
Well, I believe that all the media houses in Osun State actually went through a process of accreditation with the INEC, before this time out. And given the space that we have here, they have their reasons for doing this. If they should allow all the media houses to be represented here, all members of all the media houses to be here, I think this place will not be, you know, enough for them. Well, but if you look around, I believe the major media houses are actually being represented. These are cameras, you know, see cameras from all the TV stations. I believe there are, you know, print media houses here. I believe there are credible, you know, social media, you know, news platforms that are here. So it's the most important thing is for them to be represented. It does not matter. You don't have to, you know, be too many, you know, to be able to tell what will happen here eventually. But it's a worry though, because freedom of you know, press should be allowed, but at the same time, you know, they are trying to check and make sure that everything is, you know, well regulated. I think that is the reason why they are doing that.
Okay, you know, earlier I was talking with an domestic election observer about the level of confidence people are beginning to have in the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. You know, I don't know if you have noticed that even before this whole process started, people were already giving INEC a pass mark. And then some people say, come, this is too early to begin to give them a pass mark. And going into the process, people still give them kudos. And even up to now, from your own standpoint, from your own observation as a journalist, how would you say INEC has performed so far?
I was at the election in Ekiti, and here I am again in Osun. I want to tell you that even from the perspective of the people I spoke with, electorate, party agents, and you know, party faithfuls from the different you know, parties, all of them, there was none of them who actually, you know, spoke negatively of the commission. They all commended the commission for doing a credible job, and it's a plus. You know, it may not be 100% exercise, so to speak, but I tell you, with what I've heard from all the stakeholders, it's a plus. It's an addition, it's something a bit ahead of what they did in Ekiti, and it shows that if they can, even if it's just an addition of 5, to the score they had in Ekiti, it's something. Gradually they are experimenting and ahead of 2019 elections. So so far it can only get better, and even from because let us give it to all the parties involved. So far it's a good one.
All right, absolutely, Ola Awakan, my colleague. Well, together we'll be here to keep vigil at the INEC office, and our viewers can also join us to keep vigil because everyone is waiting with bated breath to hear when a duly elected governor of Osun State will be announced. Over to you, Gochi.
It's definitely going to be a very, very long night, Femi Akande. We hope you have enough strength to stay awake and would awake too to hear those results as they come in. Many thanks for your time.